A high-level Chinese Communist Party spy catcher defects to the United States with the promise of revealing earth-shattering secrets about the Chinese and U.S. governments. It sounds like a stunning political spy thriller, but what we're learning after China's head of intelligence apparently defected to the West is proving to be more of a true crime story. RedState.com took the news about the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, working with defector Dong Jingwei of China's Ministry of State Security beyond the rumor stage. But it was still, so wild that the appropriate initial response was skepticism. Red State's sources, however, appear to be sound. And if this story is true, it makes Dong the highest level defector in the history of the People's Republic of China. Red State has doubled down on their story, saying they've confirmed the name of the official and the nature of the work that he's been doing. Reportedly, he defected from China in mid-February after flying from Hong Kong to the United States to visit his daughter, who was attending a university in California. Once his plane had landed, he contacted the DIA and told them of his plans to defect. He also told them about the information that he had with him. According to publicly available records since April 2018, he's been the head of the Ministry of the State Security's counterintelligence activities in China. Translation, he was China's #1 spy catcher. Now, it makes sense to think that if anyone would know how to defect without getting caught, it's going to be this guy. According to sources, Dong hid in plain sight for about 2 weeks while waiting to go safely into DIA custody. Communist Chinese Party officials reportedly have demanded that Dong be returned. Apparently, even Secretary of State Andrew Blinken was not aware at the time that Dong was in America. And so he told the Chinese what he thought was true, that we didn't have Dong. In fact, it seems that until the last 3 or 4 weeks, no one outside the DIA knew that Dong had defected. Until then, they were vetting the information that he had passed on to them. Red State reports that Dong has provided the following information to the DIA. Now prepare to be blown away. First, early pathogenic studies of the virus that we now know as COVID-19. Also, models of predicted COVID-19 spread and damage to the U.S. and the world. Perhaps this Exhibit A will be the most infuriating of all. The third thing, financial records relating to the exact organizations and governments that funded research on COVID-19 and other biological warfare. And then, names of U.S. citizens who provide intel to China. Also, names of Chinese spies working in the U.S. and or attending American universities. This promises to be a long list. Then financial records showing U.S. business people and public officials, that's right, public officials, who have received money from the Chinese government. I assume that means besides Hunter Biden. Details of meetings that U.S. government officials had, perhaps unwittingly with Chinese spies and members of Russia's SVR, which is their external intelligence service. Then details on how the Chinese gained access to a CIA communications system that led to the deaths of dozens of Chinese people who had been working with the CIA. And that's not all, there's more. According to Red State, Dong also has provided the DIA with copies of the information on Hunter Biden's laptop, revealing all the scuzz the Chinese government has on Hunter, as well as his nefarious personal habits and his business dealings with Chinese entities. Oh, his father's too, by the way. It was common sense to assume that China had it all, and apparently, they do. In a revelation that should surprise no one, Dong reportedly told the DIA that at least a third of Chinese students attending American universities are actually intel assets, many living under pseudonyms to hide the fact that they are children of high-ranking military and Communist Chinese Party leaders. Gordon Chang, who's the author of The Coming Collapse of China, takes this report very seriously. He told Newsmax last week that if the information Dong has about the Wuhan Institute of Virology is proven true, it could even lead to the fall of the Communist Party. There's been no official response, at least from China, but according to Chang, Beijing appears to be in a panic. This is so explosive, it could lead to a chain of events which would sever relationships between China and the United States, said Gordon Chang. So, Why did this Chinese defector deal exclusively with the Defense Intel Agency rather than other agencies? Chang believes it's because those other units of our government have been penetrated by the Chinese Ministry of State. Well, those are the security agents let's just be honest, they're spies. He said it appears China has penetrated most units of the U.S. government, indeed, state governments as well. Now, this is consistent with what Red State has reported, namely that Dong has extremely embarrassing and damaging information about our intelligence community and government officials in the terabytes of data that he's provided to the DIA. Sure makes you wonder how many Fang-Fangs are out there and how many Eric Swalwells. Now, for those who forgot, because the American media and political establishment mostly ignored or covered it up, Fang-Fang was the nickname for the attractive Chinese spy who reportedly was able to cozy up to Congressman Eric Swalwell while he was a mere city government official, for what he, of course, claimed was a totally appropriate relationship. Oh, yes, that's the same Swalwell who tried to sell the Russia hoax theory, and he was involved in a not-so-hoax relationship with a Chinese spy. It's important to note that Dong's role as chief spy catcher would likely put him close to Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Gordon Chang said that this is really important because what this does is blow open the Chinese political system. Xi could be blamed, even overthrown in the blink of an eye. And this could cause the Communist Party to lose the stability that apparently people think it has, Chang said. And that's why the CCP leadership is so enraged. Reporter Jennifer Van Laer, who broke the Red State story of the Chinese defector, summarized beautifully the strategy of the media to deal with it. She said that as the story has developed, the reactions are an interesting and disturbing insight into how those with their own agendas attempt to shape the narrative and marginalize those who won't go along with that narrative. She says the former spook community, I love that characterization of the media, by the way, went from saying that Red State's reporting was completely untrue and used to attack Dr. Fauci, to admitting that parts of it could be true, to then taking credit for the reporting. She describes the strategy as first, ignore, then attack the source's credibility, then leak information to take the story in a different direction. And if none of that works, again attack the source's credibility and attempt to introduce contradictory evidence. And if that doesn't work, just claim ownership of the story and start shaping your own narrative. Well, I'd say that's an apt description of how the leftist media has dealt with inconvenient stories. But fortunately, there are a lot of us who know the facts from fiction. And patriotic Americans armed with the truth will make criminals somehow be held accountable. Hey, thanks for watching. And I hope you'll comment and subscribe to the channel below and click the notification bell for more videos. I'm going to be live streaming Friday at about 1 p.m. Central. And so be sure to click the box on your left for a link so you'll get a notification when we're live. And if you want more of my news analysis and commentary, of course, you need to sign up for my newsletter at MikeHuckabee.com. It's 100% absolutely and completely free. And by the way, if you're in the mood for some great entertainment, and we all need some in this kind of crazy news cycle, I hope you'll check out our second channel called Huckabee's Jukebox. Well, that's it for this edition of The Breakdown. I'm Mike Huckabee.